of course, I'm willing to take 46-year-old patients. The results are going to be lower. If we get as many as 6-day 3 embryos, it's only going to be about 15% baby rate. But many women will want to do that. In terms of PGTA, it's really been rebuked now by many control studies as kind of bogus. The concept of it is really interesting. Can we do a biopsy of the embryo and find out if it's got too many chromosomes or too few chromosomes, and therefore only transfer the embryo that's more likely to result in a baby? Totally bogus, and here's the reason why. First, let's say what's good about embryo biopsy. If you're the carrier of a single gene disease, whether it's cystic fibrosis or muscular dystrophy or Huntington's chorea or any of 10,000 terrible recessive diseases that one might be a carrier of and the partner a carrier of also, we can biopsy that embryo and very reliably only transfer the non-diseased embryo, single gene disease mutation carriers. But the idea of just doing PGTA, which is just sort of genetically screening every embryo, is ridiculous. First place, you can't screen for 23,000 genes and or hundreds of thousands, millions of DNA regulators. And but what you can do is count chromosomes. So it's aneuploidy or euploidy. But that is bogus because the trophectoderm, that part of the embryo we biopsy to be safe, which becomes the placenta, we don't want to biopsy the embryo itself and hurt the embryo, the inner cell mass, but you biopsy that trophectoderm. The trophectoderm and placenta normally have many aneuploid cells. And so it doesn't mean anything if we find abnormal cells. And, if we get 2 or 3 or 5 cells out of 120 cells, that's not going to really tell us anything when there's a variety of aneuploid and euploid cells in every early embryo. So basic science even showed us 12 years ago that if you take embryos that are, these papers have been published in their standard, and you take a biopsy of an embryo routinely, and it turns out to be aneuploid. And so you throw away that embryo, you give it to stem cell research. Well, you take the inner cell mass of that embryo that was diagnosed as aneuploid, and most of the time you get completely normal euploid stem cells. So we knew a long time ago from basic science that there's a variety of euploid and aneuploid cells in the trophectoderm, and that the euploid cells in the embryo will outgrow the aneuploid cells. So you have a 40% error rate. And so if you look at big population studies, it shows that the baby rate is lower with PGTA embryo biopsy. Even though you want it to be higher, it's lower, and certainly no better. So all the latest studies, the latest one being in the New England Journal of Medicine about a month ago, are all showing that PGTA does not improve the success rate. It lowers the success rate. 46-year-old embryos, everybody's going to talk you into PGTA, but that's really silly because even if you diagnose it as euploid, it doesn't mean anything. So the results are not great with 46-year-old eggs. Like I said, if we get even 6-day 3 embryos, and that might take 2 or 3 cycles, it's still 15% baby rate. But you might want to take that risk, and I'm perfectly happy to do that.